Welcome. Hello. So, you can tell by the title of the video, but today is about what losing the love of my life taught me. And I'm sure it would be too hard for me to sum it up in one video, one solo stream of consciousness, but I just want to get some main points across. What losing him taught me? Everything. Everything that I think I have the capacity to know at this point in my life was learned from that relationship. He taught me how important family is, how important friends are, and I want to say that it wasn't just him saying these things, even though sometimes it was. Sometimes, like with anyone, you can learn from someone's mistakes. Sometimes you can learn from reading between the lines. Sometimes you learn from not believing them and then figuring it out later on your own. But at least in my experience, up until this point, for the most part, the biggest life lessons that I learned weren't from someone just sharing them with me. They were from reflection after those lessons were shared, or me figuring it out on my own through trial and error. So a few examples would include, I had this childhood friend. Sorry if there's motorcycles in the background. I'm at a bar that I work at. So I had this childhood friend who I loved deeply, but she was sometimes difficult to love, which we all can be, especially in this age that we're in, which is I'm in my mid-20s. But she was just kind of socially awkward. And I noticed other people who had been in a friend group with her and I, and in different situations, there were different friend groups and situations over the years. She just was kind of difficult, not because she was this like evil, mean person, but just because she's different and she doesn't fit into every setting. And of course, lots of us can understand that in different times, but she was struggling with that, and sometimes she just was a lot, like very specific, detailed stories about things from 7 years ago. She'll remember that. Just different small, basically she's just quirky. But in some ways it's like you have to love her to appreciate her. But once you really crack that open, you will realize how much there is inside of that, So long story short, one time I was telling him about, and to be honest, another boyfriend had given me a similar insight into her. But so I just kind of did what everyone else did, which was kind of push her away and be like, oh my gosh, she's so difficult, blah, blah, blah. And so she might message me something about a fork or just some benign random thing that I might have already answered before, but she was just like talking to me just to talk to me. And I thought it was so annoying, like, I'm busy and I have this, or you're going to keep asking me about this thing that I already gave you advice on and you still won't listen to me, and then you tell me that I'm lucky because I have the thing that you want, but I gave you the links and the referrals and whatever you could do to do it for yourself, but you're just going to keep telling me when you see me happy in that part of my life that, oh, I'm so lucky. And I'm holding resentment because I had felt like I worked hard, and it felt like she was kind of taking that away from me by saying, oh, you're so lucky. And I could have just taken it as a compliment, I guess, but I felt like all of these things accumulating just kind of made me want to push her away because she was difficult to handle. And so the first boyfriend told me, hey, maybe she's asking you these benign questions just because she's trying to find a reason to talk to you. I realize that now because I've seen myself do that with people. And maybe I have a friend say something like, I've answered this question for you 3 times now. Like, kind of like I'm getting on their nerves. And it's like, well, maybe you have, but maybe I don't agree with your answer. Or maybe I just wanted to talk to you. maybe I was just looking for something to say that wasn't stressful so that we could have a conversation because I like you. And that's weird to just say, you know? Another thing that the love of my life taught me in that situation was, hey, you know, I have a friend who is like a SoundCloud rapper, you know, or something like that. And he sends links and he messages a ton of people and stuff, trying to get them to listen to his stuff and pay attention to it. And, you know, instead of ignoring his messages, you know, I'm proud of him for sticking at something that he loves. So even if I don't listen to every... Sorry, I thought someone was coming. Even though I don't listen to every song, I'm going to pause the video because just in case this customer is coming in. Sorry. He wasn't, but that was good customer service. So, you know, he was like, I support him and I'm proud of him for not giving up, so I'm not going to discourage him by ignoring the messages. It's not going to take so much time out of my day to just, you know, send a like to the message. And he's been doing this for maybe 10 years, and that's an accomplishment that he hasn't given up on his dreams. So I'm going to kind of affirm that and not take a lot of time out of my day to do, because why not? Why not? When I went back home to visit that friend, and I had started messaging her more and stuff like that and trying to connect with her again, when I went back home and I just saw her just to see her, like kind of a last minute, like, hey, I'm in town, I'd like to see you before I go home, back to Florida where I live now. And we had the best time. We like laughed and cried and connected, and it was a beautiful, beautiful connection, and it was incredible. And I was so sad to think that I could have missed out on this friendship because I wanted to follow what everyone else was doing, or because sometimes she was difficult. She's a really good person. She cares a lot about me and I care a lot about her, and we have a beautiful relationship. And maybe we don't talk every day, and maybe we don't share every single thing, even though I pretty much would feel comfortable sharing as much as I would with any friend with her. But I love her so much, and she's so important to me, and I could have lost that because it was easier to judge her or do what everyone else was doing. I want to say also that with my family, sometimes his family would get into the way of our relationship, not in a way that was meaningful enough to say anything, just small, you know, little annoyances. Like, you know, we're on the couch together cuddling, and his brother calls, his sister calls, his mom calls, like just, you know, all throughout the day, different things like that. And maybe I'm staying with him temporarily, and so they've caught up enough to realize, hey, she's there every time we ask where she's at, so she probably lives with you at this point. So like, what's up with that? Kind of like, you know, it just felt kind of invasive because I wasn't used to that, because even though I moved across the country and I would try to keep up with my family and stuff, there was something missing. I needed my family to be perfect and always to be on my side, when I was right at least, for them to have, my love was conditional, I guess. Wow, I didn't realize that till I just said it out loud. My love for my family was conditional, and to be honest, the conditions weren't that high. It was even now looking back, like there were a few things that I did that were unfair, but for the most part, my conditions were not very high, and that doesn't matter because love is not conditional. And to a certain extent, if you are not currently being harmed in an abusive way, that's something to think about, you know, with therapy. And this is a personal thing for everyone. My point being, for me, my family is important to me. I wouldn't have these relationships in the same way that I do now if it wasn't for him. And, you know, he learned from me a little bit of discernment, and, you know, maybe not answering the phone in certain moments, or, you know, calling back later, just different things. And there was no problem with, I mean, his family was very kind to me. It's not like I wanted him to be less close with them. There were just a few boundaries that would have made me more comfortable. Very small, slight things. But point being, by him not having those boundaries, I reconnected with my family, and I have better limits with them. He maybe needed to go from 80% to 75% to, you know, have our relationship be a little healthier, which he did. And that's great, and I think family is very important, and I didn't want to get in the way. There were just a few small things here and there, and I think that even though he might have dialed his back about 5%, and that made our relationship better and easier, maybe if he had gone back to 70%, it would have made things a lot better. There are certain things that maybe he shouldn't have shared with his sister that maybe he didn't get the best advice on from her because of how much she cares about him, which is also fair. But let's say I dialed my love and care up for my family 20%, and that's enriched my life so much, and I'm so grateful, and I'm almost sad and ashamed that I didn't dial my family notch back up, and now I have that. And my mom messaging me something that would hurt me 6 months ago, I can get past it because you're my mom and I love you, and I'm strong enough to handle that now, and I know how to take space from you and put up boundaries when I need them. But I don't always have to be so far emotionally from you, because even though there are times when you mess up, just like how there are times that I mess up, for the most part it's just love, and that's so valuable, and I was missing out on that, worried about the moments where she would mess up. So I do want to say that. I want to say he taught me so much about relationships, like living with someone, and gifts, and I thought that I was doing the right thing, for example, by asking, hey, what are you getting anything for me for Valentine's Day? Because this was my first time having a boyfriend who was also a person of color, and I had heard my girl cousins talking about how guys don't get anything for Valentine's Day, that's a day for the girl. And so I asked him about it, and he was like, that's a day for the girl. So I was like, oh, okay, now I know. That's fine if you feel that way, but I'm still going to get you something. Because he would say things like, oh, I'm easy, I don't want anything, or I just want like a birthday cake and a kiss, and that's fine, just something, $20, something like very simple. And then when we broke up, after I'd given him what he said he wanted for his birthday or something, all of a sudden that wasn't enough, and what is he getting out of it? Because for my birthday I asked for this. And that was very unfair, but at the same time, if I had stuck true to myself and given him what I wanted to, instead of not wanting to give him too much, if it was coming from the heart, then the right person would appreciate it. And so when I asked what he wanted for Valentine's Day, kind of what level are you getting me something, because I want to kind of be on the same level, he was paying my rent. Why could I not have gone above and beyond for him? That's the first thing. 2, he didn't say it in an appropriate way. He said something like, you sound materialistic. Like, what do you mean? Just get me something that you want to get me. Like, you're saying this like money matters, and you and I have been fighting for like, X amount of time, and now you're asking about gifts. Like, that's kind of messed up, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't understand where I was coming from, and I did take offense to it, and I don't think that he handled it in the appropriate way, but the root of what he was saying was, I believe, get me something from the heart. And we're having these problems, but this holiday comes up, and you just want to basically jump over that and act like what we've been going through doesn't matter, because now I have to kiss your butt because this holiday came. And I understand people more now after taking this like 6 months. I mean, we met this day a year ago. So we broke up about 6 months into our relationship, and we've been broken up for about 6 months. So a year total of having him in my life has completely changed me as a human. I'm probably gonna make this will probably be a series. Actually, I just realized that out loud because I learned so much. I learned too much to put in one video. And I'm not gonna edit this. Maybe I will put a theme song and introduction, but I'm not completely sure yet. I'm just getting back into YouTube. But there's a lot that we can learn, not only when people are in our lives, but after they leave. And it's not necessarily, I mean, you can have a closure conversation, you can talk through things, you can work through things with someone, but in my experience, even if you have someone who's willing to do that with you, it's not necessarily going to heal you. That's on you. Reflection is our responsibility. And maybe for some people it's easy to just hear what someone says and to take that and know what to do with it and to adapt it to their life and move on. But that's not me all the time. Maybe it's me 30% of the time. I need time. I need to learn that the stove is hot instead of you just telling me. And that might be dumb to some people, but it's also normal and it's also human and it's real and it's a fact. So I'm getting better at hearing and, using my discernment to not have to suffer through something. And that's part of the reason why I like having older friends. Most of my friends here are like in their 60s. But yeah, so I am going to upload this hopefully today. This is October 20th that I'm making this. And I believe that we met on October 20th of last year. So I'm just working through some things left over and being grateful for the change that came with the devastating loss of the person that I thought I would be with forever, because regardless of if he comes back and regardless of if we decide to work on this later, regardless of whatever happens, he made me ready for marriage. And yeah, a lot of that is me, because I could have just said, okay, I'm not what you want, and that's fine, and so someone else will accept me. And maybe someone else would have accepted me, but that would be terrible, because I was not at all in the place to be in a serious relationship. I mean, I was... You're not going to be perfect, ever. So that's not really fair to say. I think that we needed this time apart. I think that I needed some time alone. I think that I needed to find my way back to God, because that has been incredible for me, and it feels like coming home, and it's scary, and I worry that I am not worthy sometimes, but I found myself when I lost him. So no matter how much it hurts, and it hurts really bad, no matter how much it hurts, they say if you lose someone but you find yourself in the process, then you're the winner. It's not that I want to win. But I don't want to let it destroy me. And he didn't want that. No one wants that. But my point, I suppose, is that whether we end up together or not, we both changed me enough to be who I needed to be. So when they say it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, I didn't believe that before. But if loving him and losing him helped me find myself, that is worth it. The pain itself, if I had left it alone and not dealt with it and changed, absolutely not. That would have been awful, and there would have been no point. Having him and losing him, and then being able to find myself, did make loving and losing better than never having loved at all. So thank you for listening. If you want, I was going to say like, comment, share, subscribe. You don't have to do that. We're just talking here. We're just, we're having a good time. If you want to follow me on my Instagram, you can. I might link that, I might not. I might add that later if I decide to do that. But I think I'm going to be a video series person. So I think this will be a series. And so I suppose that I will see you in the next video. I don't know if it will be this series or something else. Let me know if you would be interested in a cooking series, but I'm sure I will do it anyway. I do hauls at the farmer's market, and that's very fun and cute and great, and I would love to do some cooking recipes as I'm going through this journey of figuring out how to cook healthy meals for myself, and maybe soon for some friends, and maybe I'll start having dinner parties. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I wish you the best.